What defines the ultimate PC gaming experience? Is it the hardware you run? Is it the games you play? Or maybe, just maybe, it's the monitor you game on. Ultra-wide resolutions have been on the rise since the early dawn of our century. With their comeuppance, they brought unparalleled multitasking abilities, resolutions which were before unheard of in games, and movie experiences which leave you speechless. But, along with their many qualities, came negatives too. And so, that leaves the question, is 21:9 even worth it over 16:9, and is it, truly, the best PC gaming experience it's hyped to be? Greetings everyone, my name is Dom, and back in December I bought myself this gorgeous 21:9 100Hz 3440x1440 monitor, and I've got to say there's nothing quite like it. Before, on my single 16:9 display, I always felt like I needed more space in which to do my things. Everyday tasks like college work, video editing, and even gaming felt like they were missing something. I've had multi-monitor setups in the past, and this is likely the origin for my extra pixel cravings. Operating off of one display can be a chore, with little room to multitask efficiently, and that is where a multi-monitor setup would come in handy. But what if you could reap all of the benefits from a multi-monitor setup while leaving the negatives behind too, such as more cables and worse performance? Well, with a 21:9 monitor, you can. I'm going to be splitting this video up into a few different sections which I'll go into detail on. First is movies, next is multitasking, and finally the last is games. After that I'll head into pros and cons about this aspect ratio, before finally bringing our journey to an end with my final verdict. It's raining outside now, and I've kinda run out of time to record this any other day, so just let the sound of water crashing against my window blend into the back of your mind. If you want to skip to any section, there will be time keys down in the description below, which you can use to jump to different segments of the video. But before we delve into all of that, first we must educate ourselves on what 21:9 actually is. This is your average computer monitor. The screen is made up of pixels. For this monitor, there are 2560 pixels going across and 1440 pixels going down. This is where we get the resolution 2560x1440 from, or 1440p. The 2560x1440 resolution is in a 16:9 aspect ratio, which means for every pixels across, there are 9 pixels down. This is not your average computer monitor. They share many similarities. This screen is also made up of pixels. However, there is one major difference which gives it that ultra-wide appearance. This monitor has 3440 pixels across with 1440 pixels down. This is where the resolution 3440x1440 comes from. This resolution is in a 21:9 aspect ratio, so for every 21 pixels across, there are 9 pixels down. Because this monitor has more pixels horizontally, the monitor is much wider than our traditional example. 21:9 monitors may also have a resolution of 2560x1080, which puts you into the position of seeing 21:9 monitors from two different perspectives. The first is that, compared to 16:9, you lose some vertical pixels going from 2560x1440 to make it 2560x1080, an ultra-wide resolution. The other perspective is that you gain horizontal pixels, in comparison to the 16:9 equivalent. For example, you go from 16:9 1920x1080 to 2560x1080 at 21:9, and also 16:9 2560x1440 to 21:9 3440x1440. If you're asking for my perspective, I prefer the latter. I'm positive like that. Ugh, fucking hell. Now we know what 21:9 is, how does it fare in entertainment? Movies specifically. You ever sit on your sofa with your family, stick on a movie, then notice those two black bars at the top and bottom of the screen? Well, that's because all movies are shot in the 21:9 aspect ratio. Because the films are rendered in a resolution too wide for your monitors, it has to scale it down so it fits on your screen without stretching. However, it does produce these black bars. Well, if you have a 21:9 monitor, it doesn't have to scale down the video because it has the correct amount of horizontal pixels going across. Consequently, there are no black bars when watching movies on a 21:9 monitor, and that can lead to some truly incredible movie nights, with friends or just chilling on your lonesome. Because the film fills a lot more of your peripheral vision, you can get much more immersed into the film, and subjectively, it is a much better viewing experience compared to watching on a traditional 16:9 monitor. That being said, it's not all fairy cakes and dancing. Some videos use trickery to emulate that 21:9 cinematic effect, but still render in a 16:9 aspect ratio, which gives you black bars all around the edges of the media playing. Regular 16:9 content looks like this on a 21:9 monitor. Black bars are either side, as it doesn't take advantage of the extra horizontal resolution. The most common place you'll find this happening is on YouTube. Almost all videos on this site are rendered in 16:9. I myself am contributing to the ultrawide cause by producing all of my product reviews in 21:9 from now on, starting with my keyboard review I did not too long ago. But besides Tryte and a few 21:9 YouTubers, you're going to be stuck with those annoying black bars either side of the video. That being said, it's not a huge deal, as you can still view it full screen, and I have personally found it pretty easy to get used to. But for normal YouTube video consumption, you will be forced to get used to it. If you can live with those black bars, then video content does bode pretty well on a 21:9 screen. For those who are considering buying a 21:9 monitor, all of my technology reviews starting from now on will be in 21:9. Gameplay and other videos won't be, however, as this is hard for 16:9 consumers to get used to, as it's rare on YouTube to see 21:9 uploaders for games. 21:9 reviews are a good medium, as that is where it most naturally belongs, with cinematic shots and b-roll, as users of 16:9 content are used to seeing black bars at the top and bottom of their screen for stuff like that. Next up is multitasking. If you're someone like me who finds himself doing multiple things at once, then it should come to no surprise that you've likely been interested in 21:9 for its ability to up your level of multitasking ability. I have a 34-inch monitor, and that, combined with my 3440x1440 resolution, gives me a vast space in which I can efficiently produce projects tailored to my workflow. You have a lot of space to do stuff. At this resolution, you can have a Microsoft Word document, a file explorer, and a browser window all at the same time without having to zoom out, making text hard to read. That's another thing about this aspect ratio. It requires no scaling. All text is perfectly legible at 100%, because you're just expanding on the size of a normal 16:9 monitor. I can think of two instances in which this is particularly useful. The first is with Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. If you work in the office and have all of that admin work to get through, you can bet your ass that a 21:9 monitor will make your life 10 times easier. You can see more, you can do more, you can do it easier, and you can do it quicker. Cells of the spreadsheet can span across your entire screen, meaning you have to scroll much less than you usually would. If you're a student, then an ultra-wide monitor can really make your life so much easier. Now I, when working on a project at home, will usually have my assignment brief open up when writing so I can make sure I don't go off on a tangent and keep my points concise. It may seem weird, but because it's much easier to keep an eye on your work structure with this monitor, it can really make your work come out better and show your true potential much more. This won't affect all people, as some people are good at keeping their thoughts and structure in their head, but for someone like me who forgets things in 2 seconds after they come into their head, you're going to be praising this monitor as if it were Jesus. Nothing ever feels cramped anymore. I mentioned earlier there were two instances in where the extra horizontal resolution can especially come in handy. The second was in editing. Not so much photo editing though, unless you're working on a 21:9 image. It's more so in video editing. Don't get me wrong, editing on a 16:9 1440p display was great. I could do everything efficiently enough where I could produce videos to a very high standard. However, lately you may realise that my videos have taken a pretty big bump in editing quality, and that's down to this monitor. It may sound weird, but I guess it's a psychological thing as well as a practical thing. Before on my monitor, I found myself having to keep scrolling along the timeline. I felt myself craving for more horizontal space, so I could increase my workflow. I'll tell you now, if you're a video editor, then you will seriously appreciate having the timeline take up all of this screen real estate. Likely, with your upgrade to a 21:9 monitor, if you decide to make it, you should have your 16:9 monitor spare. In which case, I recommend you put it alongside it as a big preview window for your work. For whatever reason, it's less laggy in playback if you run a dual monitor setup. I can't exactly remember why, but this setup lets you take full advantage of your screen real estate available on the monitor. Along the top, I have my effects controls, effects browser, 2 media dumps, and finally the tools in the middle, so my mouse doesn't have to travel far when selecting different tools that aren't assigned via a keybind. Keyframing is a lot easier, audio editing too, but I feel video editing with that extra timeline space is really a great selling point of this aspect ratio. It really does make you feel like you want to edit more and edit to a higher quality too, which is why I feel my videos have had that sudden step up in production quality. So far so good, but before we continue the video, I want to talk to you guys about how you can win a free game. The Tryte benefit system is a way of giving back to you guys to say thanks. How it works is I show you guys today's indicating word you commented down below in a funny or peculiar sentence, and then I enter you into a giveaway to win a free game of your choice. If you don't win this time, then don't worry, because your entry will carry across into next month's giveaway too, so you have an even bigger chance of winning if you stick with the channel. Rules are, you must subscribe to the channel, like this video, and also keep up with the videos I produce, so you know whether or not if you've won. You can get more entries and a higher chance of winning if you share the video, give feedback on the channel, or this video right here. Get involved and you could win a free game. The winner will be announced around the 10th of each month, which means it is in fact time to reveal our winner. Everyone give a round of applause to Rockstar North. Congrats, buddy. To claim your free game, please email me with the game you want and then I'll send it right over. Now we've got all that cleared up, today's indicating word is fugacious. Comment it down below any funny or peculiar sentence, make sure you've liked and subscribed, then I'll enter you into the giveaway to win a free game. Congratulations to the winner and let's continue with the video. So we've covered film and we've covered work tasks with multitasking. And for both, it's full marks all the way around. But it's in gaming where we start to see things get a bit more complex. This is where our desired ultimate PC gaming experience can become a bit hit or miss. Gaming in 21:9 is fantastic. It's truly stunning, being able to see much more of the world around you. The feeling you get when being completely immersed as a World War I soldier or Master Witcher in Blood and Wine sings to those rising dopamine levels that you are having a fucking amazing time playing at this aspect ratio. If you are fortunate enough to get this monitor with a curve, this just adds to the immersion. Thankfully, it's not a gimmick. I have a VA panel in my monitor, so black levels are nice and deep, giving some lovely contrasting colours in nighttime scenes. A lot of ultrawides are generally found to have either a VA or IPS display, which means you're more than likely to get a good monitor that gives a similar experience to that of a higher end display, which can usually cost a lot more. Games that natively support ultrawide resolutions will expand upon the horizontal field of view that you generally get on a 16:9 monitor. Well supported games will have no pop-in or lighting bugs at the side, and expertly supported games will have the HUD to scale to the very sides in the monitor, and not floating near the middle where the 16:9 monitors would usually end. Unfortunately, this is more common than not, but that doesn't usually affect the gameplay experience really, so it's not a massive or immersion breaking experience. For the games that do support it natively, you are sure to have a very good experience on your 21:9 monitor, but this isn't always the case. Especially with older games, the 21:9 aspect ratio isn't adopted all that well. This means they'll do some pretty disorientating things if you run in full screen. The most common example of a technique used by badly optimized games for 21:9 is screen stretching. The game won't render the extra horizontal pixels, instead it will render the 16:9 resolution, then stretch it out to fill the sides of the monitor. When this happens, it's usually just best to select a 16:9 resolution in the settings, but this produces two thick black bars, which do indeed break the immersion of the games you're playing. This isn't so much of an issue in competitive games like CSGO, which natively support 21:9 anyway, but for games like The Witcher 3 and Battlefield 1, where you want to admire the surroundings that devs have put you in and get invested into the story of the objectives, it can be a very annoying hindrance. I will say for the record, both of these games mentioned do actually support 21:9 beautifully. I was just using them as an example. For those reasons, some people even prefer to play with a stretched resolution, as they can get used to it, which is true, it's not too hard, but thankfully for 75% of the time, there is a saving grace for those that don't want to deal with either. A big positive for the PC as a gaming platform is its ability for customization, and I'm happy to say this remains true for 21:9 gamers. If you come across a game that either stretches or has black bars, most of the time heading into the INI files and tweaking the game's rendered resolution will solve the problems altogether. Some games are more annoying than that, and require a community mod to sort out the issues. But regardless, you can usually spend a minute tweaking the files or install a custom.exe file to remove all of the issues. The HUD may still be in 16:9, which isn't a big deal, and cutscenes may also play in 16:9 with black bars, but it's a workaround that most people can be happy with, although not all. If you're a person that doesn't like going into your game folder and changing your resolution there or downloading a new executable or mod, then I'd say wait a year or two for support to grow. Then, I believe ultrawide monitors will be in the position which the average consumer can adopt, and I hypothesize it might even make a transition into the console market eventually, when 21:9 TVs don't cost tens of thousands. Don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. The event of an unoptimized game for the 21:9 aspect ratio isn't all too common. There are so many, the vast majority I'd say, that do support it, and support it well at that. However, let me move on to my honest pros and cons of this aspect ratio. First, we'll start with the negatives. The main negatives is likely to be the support. Although the vast majority of games do support 21:9, sometimes you'll get a release that you'll be stuck for options with no fix from the community and no solution in the game files. This is the case with Black Ops 3. I believe the game plays at 16:9 stretched. The next negative is the cause for my main gripe, and that is the price. 21:9 monitors, if we're talking about the ultimate PC gaming experience, are not cheap. The flagship monitors, namely the X34 and PG348Q, cost around $1,300, and their used price isn't that much better either. There are, however, some gems out there which offer basically the same specs for half the price. This is the case with my monitor, the Microboard M340CLZ. The only difference I'm faced with from paying half the price is exchanging Nvidia's G-Sync for AMD's FreeSync. I'm going from an IPS to a VA panel, and finally I'm losing that factory pre-calibration, so colours aren't the best out of the box. But to save myself £650, I would happily calibrate this monitor 10 times and lose a G-Sync module. In fact, for the price of one Acer X34, I can get 2 of these microboard monitors for a surround setup. Now that would be a true PC gaming experience. If you want to watch the review of this monitor, either click right here or check the link in the description. Despite the higher end displays being fairly expensive, you can get a few good budget options. The best budget option I think I've seen is the LG 25 UM58. It costs $180, it has an IPS display, 2560 by 1080 resolution, FreeSync, and what's more, it has a 75Hz refresh rate, which you can even overclock higher. You wouldn't even find those specs on a 16:9 monitor, let alone a 21:9 monitor. If you're starting out, that is a very good option for those on a budget. If you've got the money for it though, I definitely recommend the jump into the high end. My final gripe with 21:9 monitors is the performance, because in comparison to their 16:9 counterpart, they have many more pixels because in comparison to their 16:9 counterpart, which have many more pixels going across, they can be a fair bit harder to run. 2560 by 1440 is hard enough to run at a high refresh rate as it is. This is only amplified when stepping up to 21:9. It being harder to run means you need more powerful hardware. 2560 by 1080 ultrawides are generally fine to run, as most inexpensive GPUs can run 2560 by 1440 anyways. But it's when you take the step up to 21:9 1440p that you start to require some much beefier components. For 3440 by 1440, I'd recommend at least a GTX 1070. I'm currently running a 1070 now, and this is the bare minimum at which I'm comfortable with. Battlefield 1 rarely drops below 70 FPS at ultra settings. The Witcher 3 is pretty playable at 60 FPS if you turn off Hairworks, and almost all other games will run above 60 FPS at this resolution on 1070. But if you want to take advantage of the higher refresh rate panels, you need a GTX 1080, or even better, AMD's new Vega cards if they're good, or Nvidia's new 1080 Ti if that ever gets announced. The Titan XP can handle this resolution no problem, so if you're one of the few who has that monster, you're good to go. For 2560 by 1080, a GTX 1060 will do you just fine, even when taking advantage of that 75Hz on the LG monitor. So that's the negatives out the way, but what about the positives? The increased horizontal field of view can give you an edge in competitive games. Gaming on an ultra-wide is the best experience I've ever had on my PC when it works, and is properly supported. That I am sure of. Multitasking on this monitor is the best you can get. Editing wise, it has helped me with my content creation substantially, as well as my college work, and films are just superb to watch when they fill the entire borders of your screen. If you're wondering whether it's worth it over a multi-monitor 16:9 setup, then I can say yes. Despite the multi-monitor setup generally having more pixels overall, you're likely to use an entire display while editing or doing work tasks, so you can avoid having a bezel sliced right through the middle of your work. So again, a single ultrawide would likely be worth it over 2 16:9 monitors. If you can run an Infinity or surround gaming setup, then this can be seen as better, as you're not getting the sides stretched out, which can look a bit weird. You're also not getting bezels distracting you from gaming, all while being much easier to run due to the lower pixel count. Finally, the cords of a multi-monitor setup can be quite a task to manage, as there are so many. It takes up almost all of the slots on your graphics card, and not only creates a lot of heat in your room, but also on your GPU. Idle temps will rise to near load temps because of it, and if you don't believe me, go do a bit of research. Basically, all of this video has been covering why it's useful and the positives of 21:9, so I don't think I need to repeat myself. Let's move on to my final verdict. The entire point of this video was to try and find out if the 21:9 aspect ratio is even worth it, and if it truly is the ultimate PC gaming experience. Is it worth it? Well, if you're a student, a gamer, an editor, a YouTuber, a worker, a 21:9 monitor is perfect for you. If you only do competitive gaming, then there is still a very appealing option for you. Acer have a 200Hz 2560 by 1080 ultrawide for sale, and although it is pricey, that is worth it for you. The only person I'd say it's not worth it to is someone who is not prepared to go into the INI files every now and then to play a game at a level which they deem acceptable. For those people, I would say either get a budget ultrawide and see if you like it, then go off that decision, or just wait altogether. That being said, all the tinkering in game files feels it's much more worth it when you're playing on a higher end display and not a budget one, because then you can experience the game to its fullest potential. If you have the hardware to run it, the money to buy it, and the balls to stick to it, then yes. If the game you're playing is natively supported, which most are, ultrawide gaming is not only worth it, but by a subjective standpoint, it is also the best, the ultimate gaming experience for a PC gamer, and that is my final verdict. But anyway guys, if you like this video then do show your appreciation by tapping that like button. Don't forget the indicating word, I love your face, and I will see you guys in the next one. Ta-ra.